Hi everyone, welcome to Talk Back. It is April now, and we know that every month seems to have some cause or important educational interest for us to work on. Women's History Month, Black History Month, Domestic Violence Month, October, Breast Cancer Awareness. There's so many causes in our world that have a special month dedicated to them. But here, today, in April, we have two people from the Senior Resources Agency on Aging place who are going to talk about what April is and what is it. I'm going to talk to Laura Cruz, who works with Senior Resources. We'll talk all about her, and Christine Foster. What is April, Laura?
Well, April, to me, exactly what you just said is, let's get the word out about volunteering. What does it mean to you? You know, how can you get involved with your local communities to do something that might be very important to you and maybe make you feel better all around?
Okay, so April has been dedicated to volunteering. So, Chris, why don't you talk about it too?
Yeah, I think it's a really great opportunity to celebrate volunteerism, celebrate people that give of their time and their effort to make our communities a better place, but also to encourage others to give it a try. There are lots of different ways to volunteer, lots of different causes to support, and you know, really anyone can volunteer in some capacity. So I think it's a great opportunity to raise awareness of that and get people thinking about what do they have that they can contribute, you know, to the world,
right.
to their neighbors.
So what I think about is the fact that so many people in our American country don't even bother to vote in elections, and they feel that the government is not taking care of their needs or doesn't care, or everybody's a crook, and there's a sense of disconnectedness, and so why should they get involved because they're all crooks and they don't do anything. There is that feeling, and I'm wondering, is volunteerism something that's losing steam in our society, or is it still up there as something that the great majority of people want to do? What do you think?
Well, as far as the programs that I oversee, I'm not sure if it's that. What I see normally is individuals that are working longer, so they don't really have the time to volunteer. However, when they do get time to, okay, it's time for me to retire, but I want to do something meaningful in my life, they start looking towards volunteer opportunities. And I've been told by pretty much everyone who volunteers for under the programs that we have is they're busier now that they're volunteering than they were when they were actively working. So, you know, in combining with nonprofit organizations, a lot of nonprofit organizations really need that volunteer base to, one, just help them with their day-to-day causes that they have, but also when you look in the nonprofit world, many of us are governed by a board of directors and an advisory council, and we need individuals themselves who, let's face it, as we age, we become wiser, and we need that wisdom in order to facilitate a lot of things that are happening, you know, with the agencies. So, you know, I'm going to be a little biased, of course. I think Senior Resources is an awesome nonprofit organization.
So let's get into that specifically. So both of you work for Senior Resources Agency on Aging, and they do have an advisory council, which I'm a member of. I'm very happy and proud to be that. But let's break it down and explain more specifically what Senior Resources is, what Agency on Aging is, and how you two fit into that. So, Chris, why don't you start with that?
Yeah, Senior Resources is a nonprofit organization that provides a variety of services to empower older adults and adults with disabilities to live with dignity and stay as independent and autonomous as they can for as long as possible. So again, we have lots of different services, including Medicare counseling, caregiver respite. We have veterans-directed care, nutrition programs. We have programs that provide supports to grandparents who are raising their grandchildren.
Okay. No, there's a lot of great programs that you really need to get the word out about that. And we've been trying to do that in a series of shows here to get the word out in the community that there are so many resources, and not all of them depend on a certain income level. Some of them are not income based, and you can use those programs even if you don't have a certain lower income, right? That's important too. So that's a very important aspect of that. So, Laura, how is Senior Resources funded? It's not profit, but where does it get its funding to keep going?
Yeah, great question. So, Senior Resources is one of the 5 agencies on aging in Connecticut. What's great is just about every state in the United States has an area agency on aging. Many of us do receive our funding, obviously, through the federal government, and then it filters through, and each state is set up differently, but typically the way Connecticut is set up is the funding will come through the Administration for Community Living. It's then divided amongst, I'm sorry, I skipped a step. It will go through what's known as the Bureau of Aging, so that's a state agency. And then the state agency provides contracts with the local area agencies on aging to provide a lot of services and supports. Not every single program we have is directly through the Bureau of Aging. You know, we have a little program funding, say, through the National Council on Aging, but that is typically how a lot of the agencies on aging are devised, and we have a big role with providing Older Americans Act dollars to I don't want to say general public, but community-based organizations through a request for proposal. So not only do we receive funding, we're able to provide funding to others.
So we're in southeastern Connecticut.
Yes.
We have Senior Resources Agency on Aging here. How many are there overall in the state of Connecticut? You think you
There's
mentioned?
5 total
Okay.
AAAs.
And so they each represent different geographic areas in
Locations,
Connecticut.
right.
And we're in southeastern. Is it eastern Connecticut?
It's considered Eastern Connecticut. It's all of New London, Middlesex,
Okay.
and Wyndham counties.
Right.
For some strange reason, we have 5 towns in Holland. It just
So I
happened to
would
be that way.
imagine that in addition to the funding that you get from the state and that filters from federal, that filters through the state, there's also fundraising, right? People can
Absolutely.
donate. There are a lot of programs to donate. Matter of fact, I just was at Senior Resources a few weeks ago, and I gave $100 to get 2 Stop and Shop $50 shopping cards.
Our cash
You're not giving anything away when you take that $50 Stop and Shop card. It's still $50 groceries that you're buying, but 5% of that is going to Senior Resources. If more people knew about that, how easy is that as a fundraising tool?
Right, it's
I
cash
didn't
for
realize
causes.
that until I was talking, and I said, well, why not? Does it make any sense not to do that? You're not losing anything, right?
100%.
I mean, Stop and Shop is giving the 5% to the aid. So programs like that more people need to be aware of, that make it easy for you to volunteer to donate. All right, so now I want you to talk about what each of you does within the Senior Resources. Chris, what's your role?
I'm a volunteer coordinator for a program called Senior Medicare Patrol. So with Senior Medicare Patrol, our mission is to empower Medicare beneficiaries, their family members, and caregivers to prevent, detect, and report Medicare fraud. And so I specifically work with volunteers that do that work. I recruit volunteers, help them get their training, and then they go out in the community and do group education and outreach.
Okay, so basically you're employed by the agency, but your job is to get volunteers who are obviously working for free for the service that they're giving and learning how to spot Medicare fraud. We did a program with you and your colleague on that, so we gave a big explanation. But why don't you go a little deeper? So when someone volunteers, I'm going to volunteer for your Senior Medicare Patrol. I'm going to be do I get a hat? Do I get a badge? What do I get?
Yeah, so there is a screening process. So there's an application you would fill out. We would do an interview, check your references and your background, and then you would start your training initially online. And so you would learn, we call it SMP Foundation. So you would learn the basics of Medicare and also information about Medicare fraud, errors, and abuse. So how those things are different, how to look for them. And then depending on what role you take as a volunteer, there are additional online trainings. So if someone chooses to be a presenter, they would do a group education training. So they would learn how to present to small groups of people information about Medicare fraud, errors, and abuse. We also have people that choose to be counselors, so they would take a counseling training. And once you're done with your online training, we then match you with the program coordinator in your region. So for you, Sheila, here in Eastern Connecticut, that would be my coworker Jill. She's the SMP coordinator for our region, and she would work to provide in-person opportunities for you to train, to do your activities until you're ready to do them independently.
So how long is this training process? You said it starts out online and then it goes deeper.
Yeah, it's the online training is self-paced, so I have people that will finish it in a weekend, and I have other people that might take a few weeks. And it does depend on the roles that they choose, but I would say on average they probably spend between 5 and 10 hours doing the online training.
Okay. And once you have the training, and then do you have to give them an authorization? Some people do very well, other people may not be able to get it yet. How does that work?
Well, the online training is really meant to provide the knowledge and the information, and then once the online training is complete, they would do their volunteering with a staff member or an experienced volunteer until they're comfortable, working independently.
Okay. So you said people would present. What kind of groups would they be presenting to?
Most of our presentations are at senior centers. We also do like libraries and sometimes civic groups. I did a presentation recently with Charter Oak Federal Credit Union. I took part of a financial exploitation panel that they had there.
Did you have that with a volunteer? Did you do it with a volunteer with you?
No,
okay.
The panel I did.
But a volunteer could have been with you, or
yes,
learned from that experience, or maybe shared some of the duties with you?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So about how many volunteers do you have in this region working for you?
For Senior Medicare Patrol, I think we have about 4 volunteers right now. I do recruit volunteers statewide, and so statewide for true volunteers, we have about 22. We also have some volunteers that we refer to as in-kind. So these are people that might have a job that's related to what we do, and they volunteer as part of their job duties. So oftentimes people that work in senior centers or housing communities will sometimes volunteer to provide outreach and education to the people they work with.
So of course, once you're a senior, Medicare is the end-all and be-all of your medical care, right? And so by joining your volunteer group, you're learning all the things you need to know about your own account, right? As well as about the fraud and everything else that you have to learn how to spot. So it's an educational experience that helps you personally and your family as well as the community, right?
Absolutely.
Because one of the things I noticed in doing the program with you is that so many of us, even people of education, are not aware of all the features of the Medicare program. What is Medicare? What is Medigap? What is Medicare Advantage, et cetera, all of the different things. This is something that people will be schooled in when they become volunteers, right?
Yes, with Senior Medicare Patrol, the training is for Medicare, it's sort of on the basic level, and we go deeper into Medicare fraud, errors, and abuse. But the program that Laura oversees, which is Choices, is a much more in-depth training. She can speak a little more to that.
We'll get to that. Yeah. So in terms of the Medicare fraud, what you're looking at your statement at each month, is that one of the important things that you need to do to double check and see what you've been charged for, what tests you've had, and all of that? Just give us a bit about how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. Checking your Medicare summary notices each month is one of the best ways to detect Medicare fraud. So we do encourage beneficiaries to do that, and our counselors are trained to teach people how to do it. Sometimes the notices may not be as easy to understand as people would expect, so they can kind of show them where to find the services, the name of the provider that provided them, and give them tips for things to look for, like looking for any equipment or supplies that you never received, looking for service providers whose names you don't recognize, or dates of service that you don't recognize. Like you might say, oh, I have a charge from April 1st, but I know I was on vacation that week. I couldn't have gone to the doctor's. And so things like that might indicate that fraud took place, and you can call Senior Medicare Patrol and we can help you look into it.
So some of it might be mistakes or incompetence, but some of it might be people purposely taking advantage of the system and trying to put on your bills extra tests that aren't needed, equipment that isn't needed, all kinds of stuff that they can do once they get a hold of your Medicare account. And you may not yourself be paying for that, perhaps your account is taking care of it, so you don't think it's that big a deal, but it's really taking billions of dollars out of the system anyway, right?
Yes, Medicare loses an estimated $60 billion a year to fraud, errors, and abuse.
That's amazing. All right, let's turn to Laura now. So tell us what area of Agency on Aging Senior Resources you're in charge of.
Yes. So I oversee what's known as the Choices Program. That is your state health insurance assistance program. Again, every state in the United States has a SHIP program. And what it is, it's free, unbiased information about your Medicare benefits, how to enroll, how to obtain, and the options that you have. Medicare has become very complex over these last couple decades, so it's become imperative that there's boots on the ground individuals that do not gain financially from the decisions that you make. So I've been overseeing this program now for quite some time, about 2008, and learned a lot over the course of these last couple decades working with the program, but I couldn't get the word out about Medicare trends and what you need to do without the help of my volunteers. And as Christine has, I have a mixture of just true in-kind individuals that have a kindness of their own heart. They learn this complex information and pass it forward. And again, I also have my group of in-kind, what we call in-kind professionals as well, that may be in those settings, that as part of their job, they're required to provide Medicare counseling to their residents or within their senior center or maybe a faith-based organization or whatnot. And in conjunction with, I think SMP and Choices go hand in hand, because you really need that basic Medicare information to be able to tell somebody, okay, this is how you read your Medicare summary notice or your Medicare Advantage plan explanation of benefits. And every presentation I have, make sure you're looking at that and report that, because again, we're all human, we make mistakes, but it could be somebody who inappropriately obtained your Medicare information.
So are your volunteers also required to take an online class first?
So Choices training is different than SMP.
Okay.
To become a Choices trained, you're looking about 30 plus hours.
Oh, that's,
so it is a big time commitment, but what I hear from my volunteers is, I am so thankful for taking this training because it helped me help my mom or dad or my aunt or uncle, or I'm becoming Medicare eligible too, so it's helping me understand the system. But the training is more in depth, and just because of all the ins and outs you need to know about the Medicare program. There's so many different enrollment periods. There's so much help out there for you to know about. And honestly, if you don't do something right the very first time, you may be penalized at a later time, premium-wise, for not enrolling into a part of Medicare that you need. And that's what these true volunteers and in-kind professionals do. They take this very rigorous training, and not only do they have to take the training, they also have to keep up with it. So they do need to attend update trainings throughout the year that we as Choices oversee. And we do some of the trainings. Our colleagues over at the Center for Medicare Advocacy, they do some of the trainings. And then they have to report on everything that they talk to about when you're working with a Medicare beneficiary. So
do they need to pass some kind of a proficiency exam?
Oh, yes.
Is that a written exam, an oral exam? How does that work?
No, it is actually a multiple answer quiz, or no, it's a test at the end. Okay. And you do actually have to go through the recertification process every 3 years. Okay. So we need to redo a background check. Just as Christine would have mentioned too, is when you're working with a Medicare beneficiary, you're getting a lot of personal information from them. So as both SMP counselors and Choices counselors, yes, you do have to go through a background check, because we do need to ensure that there's nothing back there. And we do require that every 3 years, not only do you renew a background check, you also actually have to redo the test itself, just to ensure that you're maintaining, you're retaining
because there's
the
so
complex
much information. Yeah.
And it changes every year. So that's a lot for a person to do. I'm used to it because it's my job, but when you're working with somebody who's freely giving you a couple hours a month, they need to stay on top of the training.
But people who enter this volunteer program in your department, they're really dedicated because they're studying a lot, they're learning a lot, it's helping themselves and their families too. But it's a big
ask.
Yes, it is.
It's overwhelming in the beginning, but I hope through myself and my colleagues at the Agency on Aging and with my other volunteers that are mixed, you need to do some shadowing. So just because you take the exam and you might be certified, I can guarantee you your very first Medicare beneficiary interaction you have is something that you probably didn't learn in training.
Right. So where do you do these interactions? So I'm approaching we should not wait till we're 65. I'm approaching 65 next year, and I need a counselor, and I want to go through the.
We want you to call. You can call us and speak to one of my counselors over the phone. You can make an in-person appointment if you wish at our agency in Norwich or within our 56-town region that we serve. I have volunteers spread throughout the 56-town region. But not only that is I make sure that I post a video on YouTube. It's there, and it's titled New to Medicare. So we want individuals who are, say, 64 to really start thinking about Medicare, because you need to ask yourself the question, do I need it? Or because I'm still working, I might not need Medicare. So without having that boots on the ground people out there to help explain this to you, sometimes people are in a crisis mode by the time they get to us because they realize they might not be so ahead of the curve that they were thinking they were.
They're turning 65 next week
today.
Or something. Yeah, right.
Today. And I'm like, I really needed to speak to you 3 months ago.
Shouldn't it be the role of our PCPs, our private, our doctors, our family doctors, to let us know if we go for an annual checkup? Hey, it's time to. Maybe they do.
Nah,
hopefully they do.
I don't know if that is something that they would get involved with. However, we would love to partner, say, with GP groups, internal medicine groups, healthcare groups, anything like that, to just really say, yes, we know you're becoming Medicare eligible. We're not the expert on the ins and outs, like where to enroll, how to enroll, the time manner that you should enroll. So why don't you call these people and call choices? It's free, unbiased information.
I'm sure you've got brochures in all the medical offices.
We try. Some will allow us to put them, and some will not. But even if they say, I will tell you, the folks that call mainly is word of mouth. Because my aunt called you last year, or my sister worked with you last year, or they may call SMP saying, I had a problem. So we think somebody got my Medicare card. All of a sudden, I got a new Medicare card in the mail. How come? Yeah. And Christine and her core group of SMP counselors can help answer those questions.
So when I call, am I going to come here to your offices in Norwich for a counseling session, or is it going to be on the phone, or either way?
It depends. It's really up to you. Now that pretty much COVID is over, offices have opened. If you would rather have an in-person appointment, 100% call first to make. While we can take walk-ins on a limited basis, if we don't have the staff member there that day, you're not going to be seen. So I'd rather have you call Senior Resources Agency on Aging. You're going to say the word Medicare, and you're going to be transferred to our Choices line.
Now, with Chris, her group goes out into the community, into senior centers and other libraries and other locations. Do you do that also?
Absolutely, absolutely. Presentations, you have to be a special person to do that. Not all Choices counselors that come through the training want to do presentations, because you really have to have that expert knowledge to be able to just answer questions that are just directed to you. When you first begin, it might be a little overwhelming. I would love to have more individuals that do presentations, but it's at your comfort level. Yeah.
But you have probably a PowerPoint that
absolutely
would accompany them with a lot of the information.
100%. And I'm willing to join them a few times if they, just to get that under their belt. I don't want anyone going out there and being uncomfortable.
So all your volunteers, now, you don't have to be a senior to volunteer. No,
absolutely.
So do you have people who are younger people who are volunteering, or is it mostly seniors?
For Choices, the SHIP program, I can't speak so much for SMP. If the volunteer is younger, it's more than likely because it's their job duties within a certain site that they may be working. Most of my volunteers are older because they have the capability to do that. They've worked their lifetime, they've retired, and now they're just paying it forward. And they may have multiple volunteer duties that they have. This is just one of them.
One of the areas.
Right.
So the kinds of work that you both are doing that are wonderful services, people need to take a class online, in person, study up, take a test, be authorized, and so forth. But there are other volunteer opportunities, probably in Agency on Aging, that don't require that. Maybe you're just helping to serve coffee at the next conference, or right? Talk about that people can just do other things that don't require as much intensive training, right?
No, I mean, sometimes we're looking for volunteers just to come in and maybe help out with some office work.
Right.
Like, if we have a mailing that needs to go out, it takes time to fold and, address envelopes and things like that. As far as, preparing for conferences, a lot of times that could be the role of like our board and advisory council members, and of course Steph, that's at Senior Resources. But we do have multiple other programs that we would love to see individuals volunteer for that may not be as inundated, like heavy training.
Right.
But I would love to have somebody come in just to help with some office work, just to do things, and that doesn't require any training.
Yeah.
If you have an hour to spare, maybe once a month,
Right.
we'd maybe love for you to come in and,
Right.
and help us out.
So, and we're just concentrating on one agency in this area, but there are dozens in this community of Eastern Connecticut where you can call a nonprofit of an interest that you have, whether it's health or theater or anything, almost anything of your interest, and they probably have something that you can do on a volunteer basis.
I would always suggest call your local senior center. They're always looking for
they're
volunteers
always,
to
yeah.
help, whether it's to help serve at meal sites, just maybe events that they're hosting.
Right.
A lot of where, quite frankly, money is tight, the funding is not there
Sure.
to support a staff person, admin support or whatnot. I would definitely connect with your local senior center to see if there are any volunteer opportunities there.
All right, so Chris, since April is, I think, Volunteer Appreciation Month, the whole month is dedicated to that, but talk about, are there specific days during the month, and what kinds of things are we going to see in terms of commemorating this month? What kind of programs?
Well, the National Volunteer Week is April 20th through the 26th, so you may see events around that time. I know locally I'm going to a couple of volunteer fairs, so you might want to look at your local libraries or community centers if you're interested in learning about volunteer opportunities. I'm doing one April 5th at the Waterford Library. So they bring together lots of different organizations that have volunteer opportunities, and people can visit with them, ask questions, and get some ideas about what's out there. Probably some volunteer appreciation events. We like to send cards to our volunteers and just draw attention to the positive impact that they're really having, because there's just no way that we could reach the number of people that need this information without them.
So is Senior Resources going to have any special day or program?
Well, we're for Senior Medicare Patrol, we're doing something in June, but I think that
it
Laura
doesn't
has
correspond in April, unfortunately. My Volunteer Appreciation Day for my Certified Choices Counselors is going to be happening in May. It just happened to work out. We just couldn't finagle it for April.
Well, you can continue April going into May.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, every day is Volunteer Appreciation Day.
Right.
When we're working in the fields we are. I always try to make it a point to say thank you to my counselors, because again, we can't reach the amount of people. Just choices alone for this year, 2024, so January 1st to the end of December, we spoke to over 3,500 people.
Wow.
And helped them with their Medicare. And that was due to everybody who I have throughout my 56-town region. So without them, there's no way we would be able to attain those numbers.
So what are you going to be doing in May on that
They're
day? Is it a day, a week?
No, it's I'm going to be mean, and I'm actually going to incorporate it with a training day as well. So, but no, just to say thank you, I have usually a one-on-one note to each one, a little thank you note. But we're going to apply in with some sugary, goodies and things like muffins and danishes, and give us some time to network with one another. And then I'm going to turn it into a training session.
Do the volunteers ever get together in any kind of a group meeting, or they do? You have
So we try to at least, obviously the whole face of volunteerism, I think, changed when 2020 hit and the COVID came. It really had us rethink our structure. But it used to be like all of our update trainings were in person and things like that.
Sure.
Well, when you have a 56-town region, sometimes it's an hour to get to where you need to be. And I think a lot of businesses have kind of changed up their travel arrangements, which is okay. So yes, we do get together, but sometimes it's online. But we do try to get together at least one time per year, everyone, because a volunteer may have a way of doing something, and this volunteer said, oh, you know what, that's a good idea. I didn't think of it like that. Trade stories. Again, the longer you do this, just the more knowledge you have, and the older we get, the more wisdom we attain.
And lots and lots of meetings, I attend them all the time, are hybrids.
Yes.
They're in person, and if you can't make it, you're online. So you can have the best of both worlds sometimes.
And there are some volunteer opportunities that can be hybrid or virtual as well. So if you're feeling like you want to volunteer but you have a hard time getting around, like I have a volunteer that does a little bit of graphic design. So she helps me make flyers and posts for social media and things like that. So I would say if you're feeling like you really want to volunteer but you're not sure how, you have to do a little bit of research, maybe, or make some calls, but there are opportunities for everyone, really.
And I think we all also, you mentioned that sometimes people are busier now in their retired life than they were when they were working, but it seems that the people who are always busy usually are doing a lot more than just one volunteer. Do you find that?
Right, right. And they may sit on board in advisory councils. They may, take big part of United Way and those opportunities, or maybe something at their senior center. So when I say sometimes they're busier than what they were, it's because they have multiple volunteer opportunities. And then I think throughout the years they decide, okay, I can put more time here, but I might have to back off here, and vice versa. So, whatever you choose to do, I'm thankful for whatever time you can donate to Choices SMP.
And do people seem to stay with it for a few years?
There does. So I have about 13 true volunteers for 2024, and I have about 40 in-kind professionals. Out of that number, most of them have at least 5+ years with the Choices program. I really just think it's, your idea of what Medicare counseling is.
Well, of course, once you invest in learning so much, you want to probably want to keep it up, right? It makes sense.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Anything, we want to go to we have a little slideshow with some more information that Laura and Chris will talk about. Okay, here you are.
Here we are.
Director of Benefits Access Senior Resources. That's the same as Choices, or what? Benefit Access is...
I oversee multiple programs, including the Choices program.
Including the Choices.
Right.
And it's Chris Foster, Coordinator of Volunteers, Senior Medicare Patrol. And so I think it was important for us to realize, Chris, you do the volunteer work coordination for the entire state, not just this community.
For Senior Medicare Patrol, yes.
For the whole Senior Patrol, but you're based here in Eastern Connecticut. All right, let's go on. Next slide. All right, so who wants to talk about it?
I can talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, let's talk about this.
There are lots of benefits to volunteering that people don't always realize. But volunteering has been shown to help your own health and well-being. So it can reduce stress, it can help lower your blood pressure, boost your overall happiness and life satisfaction. Personal growth, I think that one comes up a lot, but you can learn new skills or enhance the skills that you already have. I know with Senior Medicare Patrol, we have lots of college students that choose to volunteer, and it really gives them an opportunity to get some real-world experience, to practice public speaking, and to learn about our healthcare system.
That's personal growth is so interesting because some people may have had wonderful careers, but they sat at a desk, or they didn't have a lot of interaction with people. And by becoming a volunteer and taking your programs, they're learning how to do public speaking, how to counsel people, skills that they never learned, even though they had wonderful careers, right?
Right.
So it's a wonderful learning experience. Gives you new insights in life. Yeah. A lasting and positive impact.
Yeah.
And you're supporting important causes in the community. Great.
And they're just wonderful. They truly are. I enjoy interacting with my volunteers each and every day. They're just truly amazing people.
All right, next slide. Okay, talk about this.
Sure. So every agency on aging in Connecticut is governed by a board of directors. So our board of directors basically is the oversight committee, basically, of the nonprofit organization. So we're always asking, and I know during my presentations that I have out in the community, I have a volunteer slide. So it's not just becoming a choices volunteer, but if you have a background, say in marketing, policy management, executive leadership, and you want to do something meaningful but bring senior resources into the future, apply to become part of our board. We'd love to have you. We need people all throughout our 56-town region. And the time commitment, honestly, I don't think it's so severe. They do meet on a monthly basis, at least 10 times per year, and you do have to serve on at least one committee. Some choose to serve on multiple committees, and that's okay. But it's really in direction with our executive director. You and Allison will meet quite frequently just to discuss what's going on in our district, how can we make it better, and getting the word out there that yes, senior resources does exist, and we don't want folks in a crisis mode by the time they get to us.
Right. Okay, we'll go back to that slide. Let's see if anything else we missed on that slide. Okay, average commitment is 5 to 10 hours per month. Okay, great.
And two with the meetings is a hybrid. Hybrid is great, so you can most certainly come to our office in Norwich, but you can definitely attend.
It's still better to be in person. That's always the best option.
I think communication is a little easier when it's in person, but again, 56-town region, you're asking maybe somebody from Middletown come this. It's about an hour drive one way, so.
Okay, next slide.
Did you want me to talk a little bit about this?
Oh, sure.
You tell me.
Yeah, you go ahead. I'll take the next
so again, the advisory council, and you well aware of the advisory council, yes, and we're very thankful to have you. Pretty much is we have to do what's known as an area plan, and a matter of fact, myself and my colleagues at the agency are working on our area plan for the next several years right now. That is basically a thick booklet that says this is what we plan on doing over the course of the next 3 to 4 years. So our advisory council members ensure that we are doing that, and you allocate funds that we may receive to the requests for proposals that are coming in and funding some of them, and helping a lot too with fundraising. You mentioned the Stop and Shop gift cards. That's not the only fundraising. We do a lot of fundraising, and really just trying to get the word out of the fundraising activity, like Birdies for Charities is coming up, happening soon, and not to mention just many other fundraising activities we host.
And one of the things the advisory board does that I do every June is we have proposals come in from senior centers and other agencies that deal with seniors, and they're asking for funding for certain programs, a memory program or foot care program or different things, and we have to analyze and decide. We advise, and then the board makes the final decision as to what programs will be allocated each year. So it's very interesting.
It's an important job.
Yeah,
so important volunteer opportunity.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay.
So, this is basically me. So, your state health insurance assistance program, again, every state has this program, and it does provide one-on-one free unbiased information to Medicare beneficiaries, to their family members and caregivers. Again, we want you to know what you need to know to make an informed decision about your Medicare benefits and the options that you have, and also to just getting the word out there, like if you're a retiree from an organization that gives you a retirement health plan, we can help you with the Medicare part, but you really need to speak to your human resources department to make sure how is that going to wrap around your Medicare coverage. So again, if no matter where you live in the United States, you have access to your SHIP program, please call them. And if you have a hard time, you don't know who to turn to, call us at Senior Resources. We can direct you to your local
What's the number
SHIP.
of Senior Resources?
Our local number is the 860-887-3561.
Can you put that on the screen, Studio? 887-3561. Senior Resources, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So SHIP, is that same thing as choices?
It is.
Yeah.
Every state can just name it differently, brand it differently,
Okay.
but it's known by SHIP.
Yours is known by SHIP.
Any federal document you get from the Department of Health and Human Services, they'll say connect with your SHIP, but in Connecticut, it's rebranded as choices. Like Florida is the SHINE program,
Okay.
and so is Massachusetts. So it might have a different name, but look for SHIP, and that will get you to an agency just like us that will provide that free, unbiased information.
Okay, great. All right, next slide. All right, here you go. Chris, this is your bailiwick.
Yes, Senior Medicare Patrol, we've talked a lot about it, but our main focus is empowering Medicare beneficiaries to prevent, detect, and report Medicare fraud. And we have a variety of different roles our volunteers can take on. So doing group presentations, going to community events like health fairs or resource fairs, and having a table where you give out materials and information. We have people that do administrative support, so they might help with data entry, and of course counseling to Medicare beneficiaries about Medicare fraud. And if you want to volunteer with Senior Medicare Patrol, you would contact me, and my number is up there, 860-934-6322.
So we can contact Senior Resources, you're there, or what is this other number is what?
That's my direct line.
Oh, your direct
Senior
line is
Resources,
934-6322.
860-934-6322. That's Chris's direct line if you want to volunteer. That's great. Senior Medicare Patrol, SMP. Everything has to have initials.
It has to have an acronym, of course it does. Any federally funded program has an acronym.
Okay. All right, great. Next slide.
Did you want me to talk about
Yeah,
that? Okay.
or I can.
Yeah,
Live,
go right ahead.
Live Well is a health education program that we do at Senior Resources, and we have volunteers that help teach the workshop. So they're usually a 6-week workshop. There are a few different topics. There's living with diabetes, living with chronic pain, or living with chronic conditions. And our Live Well volunteers complete training to become a workshop leader, and then they present those workshops in pairs. So they always work with a staff person or another volunteer.
So if you want to attend one of these workshops because you have high blood pressure, arthritis, diabetes, how do you find out about it? Where do you go?
Yeah, your most direct option is going to be to call our agency, and we can tell you when and where they're happening. But they tend to happen in the community, and so if you frequent a senior center, like they may also have information about those.
Okay.
And I could tell you personally, I used to oversee this program back in 2007, 2008, and it was just a great way to, it doesn't replace what your doctor is suggesting, it's just a way to enhance it. So one part I love about this is there's brainstorming activities. You know, you may present a problem and you're not sure how to do it, and within a group amongst your peers, they may shoot out some, brainstorming ideas like, oh, I didn't think about it that way, let me try that. And you do these action plans, and it's, the bottom line is you're going to have a main goal. What do you want to get to? Well, you might have to do these little action plans, little baby steps to get you there. So it could be like, you know what, I'm going to walk for 1 minute 5 times this week. And then next week you may do the action plan. Well, I'm going to increase that to 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing when I worked with the individuals that went through the program itself, is just the ideas they had of what they could accomplish was just amazing, and they were really thankful to go through this program.
How often do these workshops take place about?
So there are 6-week workshops, so it's a 1 workshop per week for 6 weeks, and
an hour
you attend.
Session?
No,
like
they're about 2.5 to 3 hours.
Wow.
But there are 20 minutes of a break, so that's good. But there's just throughout it's just really camaraderie again amongst your peers, and they're held several times throughout the year. There's also a training component. You can become a Live Well leader by going through a rigorous training. But again, I think the pleasure you get from it far outweighs the amount of training that you have to go through. So if you are interested, it's Lori Rogalski in our agency. She's the one that oversees the Live Well program. And again, I can never say enough good things about that. I think it's truly remarkable.
You're getting not just camaraderie, you're getting support.
support,
too.
absolutely.
It's like a support group in
Yes.
a sense. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Was that the last slide, or do we have any? Is it Live Well the last one? Is this the last? Connect with us. So talk about that. Very different. The board of directors. Allison is a wonderful
Yes.
director.
She's our
I
executive
know.
director.
She just oversaw it. Was at the 50th anniversary,
Yes.
and that was very
Yes.
nice party. Kathy Chase is the director of contracts. State Health Insurance Assistance Program, that's you,
That's
Laura
me.
Cruz. Senior Medicare Patrol, that's Chris, that's you. We already got your direct number, 860-222. That's a different number.
They're both my number, though.
Oh, they're both your
Yes,
numbers.
you'll get me.
860-222.
8825.
8825. And Live Well, that we just talked about, it sounds like a wonderful
Oh,
program.
it is.
860-383-1538. Okay, and of course, let's put the, before we say goodbye, let's put the Senior Resources number on the screen one more time. There you go, and we'll keep it on until we say goodbye. So we're going to have some final thoughts. So we want people listening to know how important it is to enhance your own life, give it more quality, learn a little, get some exercise, meet other people, have a support, and give service back to people who've helped you over your lifetime, right? So why is it important, and why should we do it in this community, especially for your wonderful agency?
Oh, I mean, I think wherever you volunteer, you're doing an amazing thing. It's good for you, it's good for your community. And again, I really can't stress this enough. It can be really flexible. You know, if you're looking to give a couple hours a month or, 20 hours a week, like there's something out there for you. You just have to think about what are you passionate about, what really calls to you, and just go for it.
Okay, great. And Laura, you
I'm
have
a
final
ditto
thoughts?
everything Christine said, because they're wonderful thoughts. But I do think on some level of volunteerism, I think it does help towards, say, isolation. You know, a lot of our seniors faced a lot of that these last couple years, and it's a way to getting you back into the community. And, every volunteer comes with something to the table, and we want to hear from you. You have something to offer, and you're going to find a very rewarding experience, whether it's through SMP, whether it's through Choices, whether it's through Live Well, maybe it's helping out at the agency. I know my volunteers love it when they hear the thank you. I just thank you for talking to me. And sometimes you're just a listening board. You may not be able to help the person at all, but you listened to that person. You listened to the client coming through, and they are thankful for that. Yeah. So again, we're very thankful for anyone who wants to volunteer their time with Senior Resources. And if we're not the agency to volunteer for, connect with your senior centers. Look at volunteermatch.org. Great place to look at the volunteer opportunities that are out there.
Okay,
of course,
great.
we're biased. We want you to come volunteer for us.
We want you to we've concentrated on all the wonderful work that Senior Resources does, so we want you to volunteer for that.
Right.
You learn a lot, and you enhance your own life, your health, personal life, and so forth. But as Laura said, it's April, it's volunteer month. Try to figure out something that suits you, that you can contribute and give back to the world that has brought you along all these years, and give back, and you'll give back to yourself when you do it, right?
Right.
So thank you so much to Laura Cruz and Chris Foster from Senior Resources for the great work that they do, and for all the volunteers that are now going to show up at their doors to help out at Senior Resources. And we'll see you next time on Talkback. Bye.